for a soils report. So there's a requirement for a soils report for building permits. So what this new component does is it looks for and requires that a soil report or a document labeled soils report is actually uploaded to the document. And we're not scanning, the system is not scanning and reviewing the contents of that it is in fact a soils report. It's looking that there's a document named soils report or geotechnical report being uploaded as part of the application process. Another aspect of this new feature affects plan review and resubmittals. And so the kind of like the rigid part of this is that the resubmittals are only being allowed by the client to resubmit once all comments are provided. This includes the primary discipline and the secondary discipline. So like in the building permit, it'd be a building plans examiner providing the comments on the structures. But we also want to see, for example, well and septic or planning provide comments on that project before the client can resubmit. The client can see these comments and start addressing them, but they're not being, the portal sort of is not open until all sections have commented. The reason for this is in the past we've found where clients will get the well and septic comments and provide a resubmittal just addressing those, then another resubmittal just addressing planning comments, and it leads to kind of a messy situation in terms of version control, which ones came in when, and it just kind of got a little sloppy. And so this is one way of dealing with that, so that we get one version or one resubmittal that addresses all the comments after all the comments have been provided. This new component or digital plan room allows greater and easier access to our plan review comments. You can see them online. You don't need to wait for a particular section to email you or send you those comments. You can actually see them if you happen to be in the system at the right time. You can see staff working on it and providing those comments. But the timing of that, you know, probably never hit that. But the system does notify you when the comments are produced and they're ready, and you can go log in and view all the comments. Now, the comments are a couple different formats on how they're presented. One format is they're provided in a list type format, so you can go through them one by one. You can also see them on the actual plans, so you can see them in context of what's going on the plan and help better discern what the comment means. We also want to increase the transparency. So in this new piece of the process, the clients will be able to tell based on the status where the project is within the process. For example, right now, well permits get into a paid status, and they stay in a paid status until it's issued. Well, that doesn't really help you out because you don't know if we have started the review, if we completed the review, if we're waiting for something from the client. So we're adding statuses for well permits in particular and others, so that at a glance, the client will know where it's at in the process. This also helps us in terms of reporting processing times. So that if we know that we've gotten to it in 3 weeks, we can report that out. But if it just stays in paid status through the whole time, we have no idea how long it's taken us to review. A couple housekeeping items I need to mention before we get started. All of the viewers of this workshop are muted. That's on purpose. You don't need to change your settings or anything like that. And we're doing this so that people won't talk over each other. But then how do we handle questions? Well, we're asking that you put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat for questions, and we will answer them during pauses in the presentation or at the end of the workshop. But our goal is to get to as many questions as we can within the hour. I do want to talk about two major happenings in the water well world, because you probably have questions about those. The first is the drought executive order that has been lifted. There were two primary requirements of that order that were no longer enforcing. That was that if you're in the GSA area, we would refer the well applications to the GSA for their comment. And then if the well was in close proximity to another well, an evaluation had to be done to show that the proposed well was not affecting the existing well. So both of those provisions are off the table, so to speak, and we are not enforcing the drought executive order because I think 2 days ago the governor stated the emergency was over and basically dissolved that. The second thing is the public trust lawsuit. So several years ago, the county was sued for not evaluating impacts to the public trust. So the county produced an ordinance that we feel and still feel was like the middle ground on evaluating the public trust, but still allowing projects to go forward. We got sued on that ordinance. We have lost that lawsuit, and we have an order from the judge basically declaring that. The order from the judge was fairly vague, so we're not quite sure exactly how to respond. There was no directive in that order, just basically saying that the judge was siding with the plaintiffs. So we are evaluating that order. We are working with our Board of Supervisors to get direction from the Board of Supervisors on the next steps. So as of right now, it's a status quo. We're still accepting well applications. We're still processing those until we get direction and see how we're going to be responding to that lawsuit. So this workshop goal is to focus on the technical improvements and the changes that this new tool brings versus talking about individual projects. And with that, I'll turn it over to Thomas and Alex.
Thanks, Nathan. So as Nathan mentioned, we're going to go through a quick demonstration of the technology. My name is Tom Ceramelli. I'm the IT manager for Permit Sonoma. With us today, we also have Alex Rosas, and I see Tamara DeCenso has joined too, so I'll let them do a quick introduction before we launch off. So Alex.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alex Rosas. I'm the engineering division manager here at Permit Sonoma, overseeing the well program. It's good to see everybody or be here on the call with everybody.
Tamara, do you want to give a brief introduction for yourself? Oh, looks like she's struggling with the mute button, so I'll take care of that. So Tamara is our intake supervisor. So she supervises the permit techs up in the permit center, and they do intake for the various different permit types. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. What we're going to do here is Alex and I are going to kind of wear different hats throughout the process. So I'll be wearing the hat of the applicant. So I'll kind of be representing those of you on the call here and showing you what you're going to be doing to apply for a permit and upload your documents and how you'll interact with the system throughout the plan review process and on to issuance. Alex is going to play the role of staff, and so he'll start by playing the role of the permit tech doing the intake, and then transition to the role of a plans examiner doing reviews for the plans for the various different divisions within the department that are identified to conduct a review. And so between the two of us, we'll kind of take this all the way through to an issued permit and the delivery of the electronic stamped approved document set. So with that, I'm going to shut off my video and share my screen, and we'll get started. All right, so you should be seeing my screen, and what you're looking at right now, here, hold on, let me rearrange some stuff here. There we go. So what you're looking at right now is what we call Permits Online. So this is our online portal. This is where applications are started in our electronic environment. Many of you are probably already aware of this and familiar with this. If you've applied for permits through our system before, then chances are you've done that through here. And so basically to start the process, we're going to click the Start the New Application button. And that takes us through the application process where you add address, and parcel numbers, and a bunch of other details. And I'm going to skip all of that because that takes a few moments to go through, and I think there's nothing there that's really significantly changed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over to a screen. I've already filled out the application and gotten to the point at which things are going to start to look differently. So I'm going to fast forward to that really quickly. And so that's what you're seeing here. So for those of you who've done this before and are familiar with it, once you have gotten through the application process, the last thing it's going to ask you to do before you get to this page is to upload your documents. And so we need, for a well permit, the site plan, right? And you would have uploaded that just before this page. The page you're looking at here is a review page. And this basically is an opportunity for you to take a look at all of the entries that you made along the way, make any changes if there's something that needs to be corrected, and then ultimately you'll click the Continue Application button, and that's what submits your permit application. That document upload screen that you are used to seeing prior to this page changes. The document upload no longer occurs prior to the submittal of your application. That document upload now occurs next, after the submittal of the application. So let's go ahead and jump into that process because that's where things start to look differently, and I'll kind of show you what that looks like. So we're going to click the Continue Application. Right, and the first thing that you should see here is it's going to take you to a screen that's basically acknowledging that, yes, you've submitted your application. Your application has been successfully submitted, it says here, and it actually gives you the record number. So we are working with now WEL 240019. And so that is our permit application number, and the permit number, ultimately when this is issued, that is our permit number. You'll see on the screen here, it gives you an opportunity to upload your plans and documents right here. So you can continue in the same setting or same sitting and upload your documents next. I'd also like to show you though what happened in the email. And so I just got this email as the applicant. And this email is telling me that my application has been received, but it's also telling me that we need to upload some documents and plans. It's telling you here that the review cannot begin until you've uploaded your plans and supporting documents. It gives you a link here, and when you click this link, it's going to take you to the same place that clicking the link here does, right? And so let's do that. Let's click the link. What this has done is taken you into our Permits Online portal and directly to the new Digital Plan Room functionality, which is where we're going to upload our documents. A couple things that I want to draw your attention to. On the right-hand side, you'll see that we have some requirements over here in red. If you do not meet this requirement, it's not going to let you proceed. And so the requirement, and it's already expanded here, is we need a well site plan. And it's telling you this document is required to be uploaded as a site plan document type. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. You also see that there's recommended document here. And so it's also talking about construction plans are recommended here. You'll see some changes in this in the coming week or so where we're going to add some other recommended documents in here. And the whole goal there is to have a better shot of getting everything that we need on the initial submittal and not having to circle back and have you upload additional stuff that just creates delays in our process. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to upload my documents. So it says I need a site plan. I happen to have some things over in another folder on my computer here where I'm going to drag some of these things over. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to intentionally bring the wrong thing over. So I'm clicking and I'm dragging and I'm dropping on a PDF that I have. I could have selected the browse button and navigated to a folder on my system or a drive somewhere and grabbed the document and uploaded it that way. Either way works. So I need to select a document type. If I try to upload and validate here, which is the next step after I've got my document here, you'll see that it's telling me, wait a minute, you need to tell us what document type this is because we need to determine whether you've met these requirements or not. Right, so we're going to go in here, and what's it tell me? I need to upload this as a site plan. And when I come here, I'll see, oh, there's site plan in the list. So description. Here's an opportunity for you to give us a little bit more information than what you might see in the document title over here. So we might say site plan for, and the address we use is a fake address, and give just a little bit more information about what it is that you're doing here, because this description in the title may not do everything that we want it to do, right? And so we've said that we've got a site plan here. Again, I'll remind you that what I've uploaded here is actually a grading plan. It's not the correct document, and I'll show you what that looks like when we go through. I want to demonstrate what happens when we get the wrong thing, and it's not uncommon for that to occur when people are dealing with multiple projects. You can imagine you've got 5 different projects that you're working on at the same time, and you upload the site plan for the wrong address. It's not uncommon for that to occur. So let's move forward. So what's happening now is it's uploading and it's validating. And the validation part of this process is pretty important, and it's actually helping us a great deal draw some efficiency to the process. It's very common for files to come in that have either been corrupted, or maybe there's a password protection on it, or some other problem with the document itself that prevents us from doing our portion of the review. And what happens when that occurs is that we've got to reach back out to the applicant, and we've got to try and figure out why the document isn't working for us. And then ultimately the applicant needs to upload a document that is going to work, and then we can move on. And that could take days, or if there's a lot of confusion and things need to be redone, it could take even longer. And so to help tighten up that process, this validation, what it's doing is it's looking for the common problems that would occur. And when it detects one of those problems, it'll actually throw an error message here and actually give you some help documentation to help you figure out how to fix the problem, so you can actually get the correct document uploaded the first time. So that's actually helped improve the quality of the submittals that we get, which then just makes the review process that much quicker on our end. All right, so it's been validated. So the next thing we need to do now is continue. So what's it doing now? Now it's using a technology called optical character recognition. And this is actually the computer is opening the document and reading through the document. And it's looking for something very specific. It's looking for, on a set of plans, construction plans, you will typically find a title block along the edge of a set of plans. And in that title block, you'll find some page numbering. That is what this is looking for, and it's what it's doing is it's trying to separate the document that's been uploaded into individual sheets. And that's important because when we identify issues in the plan review process, we need to be able to identify what sheet needs to be corrected on a resubmittal. And also, if you're submitting corrections, we need to be able to identify what sheet has changed from the original set. And so it helps us maintain version control. So we know what is the first version that was submitted and what's the second version that was submitted. And ultimately, at the end, we stitched all together into an approved set of documents that all contains the correct updated versions. So it's looking for that here. Again, I've updated something that's not right. So that's my first clue that something's not right here. And I might notice that myself and go back and correct this and put the correct sheet in. But in this case, I'm going to proceed. And what it's looking for is page numbers. It can't find it. So it's going to ask me to number it for the system. So I'm going to call this page 1, and I'm going to call this page 2. Once I do that and it recognizes that there's not duplicate page numbers or any other problems with it, then all the pink and red goes away, and it's going to allow me to continue. So I'm going to continue. All right, so this takes me to a page very similar to the review page that we had in the application process, and it's going to kind of show me here's what's been done. I've got a validated well site plan here. And this is the document that I've uploaded, and what I need to do is I need to finish. There are folks who've come to this page and see this little green dot, or maybe think that, oh, this looks like I'm done, and they navigate away from this page and don't quite finish. If you do that, it's actually not done, and we're not going to start reviewing the plans and start doing our review of the permit application. And so what the system is going to do when it notices that you've gotten this far and stopped, it'll start sending you emails on regular intervals reminding you that you haven't finished. And so in those emails, you'll click the link to come back here, and you'll just need to come back and click the finish button. That's the important part. All right, so we've clicked finish, and it's telling us that our package has been submitted. And so now what we're waiting for is it takes a little bit of processing time on the back end. And so I'm going to get an email acknowledging that I've submitted that. And while we wait for that email to come in, I'm going to kind of turn it over to Alex and see if you've got any comments that you want to bring in around the upload process and the site plans and those things that are coming in.
I want to make a couple comments. One of the things that we are improving is being clearer and more transparent about what the application submittal requirements are for a given scope of work. So we have identified what we need as for all well applications, not just water wells. We deal with destructs, monitoring wells, and borings and things of that nature. So we'll be updating what those requirements are to submit for a well construction application. And then part of our process is going to be verifying that those required documents are actually uploaded with the application itself.
Thanks, Alex. I'm going to pause for a second because we did get a question in the chat, and I was typing the answer to that. I'll continue to type afterwards so we have it in writing. But the question was that those applicants that are applying for well permits within the city limits, the system doesn't work well for you because it's looking for an address that is in the unincorporated jurisdiction of the county. And yes, that is correct. We will not be fixing that with this particular implementation, but we do have another project that we're working on simultaneously with this that is scheduled currently to implement in November, where we'll be able to correct that. And as you go through the application process, if you are applying within the city limits and the application is allowed within city limits, then you'll be presented with an option to proceed in that case. It's got a little bit of complication with it because there's very, very few application types that we process within city limits. So, but just know that that is coming. Yeah.
Yeah, if I could jump in, that also applies to work in the right of way. So in wells, we do permit borings. So sometimes they're doing geological borings in the right of way. And so the same thing applies there, and the same fix will address that.
Yes. All right, so let's move on. I got an email here. So let's take a look at the email that I got. And it's basically telling me the plans and the documents have been received. This is your indication that all is now successful. We have an application and we have a set of documents, which means now our intake staff can go about the business of determining whether or not that application is complete. And so that's the next part. And Alex should be working diligently in the back office to process that incoming application, and we'll see what email we get next.
Okay, so I was playing the role of intake staff. I was notified we had an application, went to go look at the application contents, and lo and behold, not what we should be receiving. So I've deemed the application incomplete, put a comment as to what was incomplete, what was necessary. And Tom, you should have gotten that email, or it's coming over.
It just showed up, yes.
There you go.
Okay, so let's look at that email. Last time I kept these things up on the screen, I want to get them out of there. All right. So now we've got an email that came back, and it's telling us that the application 24090019 has additional information being requested. And so this is telling us, oh, I've got something now I need to do. I need to kind of pay attention here. And so you'll see it's directing us to take a look at the intake comments, which are this section down here. And so the comment that was provided here by Alex is basically telling us that what was uploaded isn't actually the correct set of documents. And it's asking us to please submit the appropriate site plan. And also it's asking us to remove the incorrect document, which is an important part. We want to get the messy stuff out of there. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. While I'm here, what I will also mention is sometimes it's not actually a problem with the documents. It may be something that at intake we have a few questions. Maybe we need some details, or maybe you filled out a bit of information in the application that isn't complete, or maybe it looks wrong to us. And so we're maybe just asking for clarifying questions. And so in those cases, you'll be able to reply to this email and add the detail that's being asked for. In our case here, it's actually asking us to upload another document. So it's got a link here that's telling us, please return to Permits Online to upload the project plans, which is what it's wanting us to do. So we're going to click that link. And we're going to come right back to where we were before. And I see that here's my original upload. I'm going to go to the folder that I have off to the side, and I'm going to bring in the correct one, which is actually a well site plan. And remember, I need to identify it as a site plan here. And I'm going to do the same thing. And we're going to upload and validate. And so we're going to go through that whole process again. Again, you won't have to do this if everything's correct on the first time around, but I kind of wanted to show what it looks like since it isn't uncommon for this to occur across all of our record types. So now we have our new site plan in here validated, but our email asked us to remove the old one. And so you'll notice down here, you have an opportunity to do that by the little trash can button. So if you click the trash can and remove, it's going to ask you, are you sure? You say yes, and it's actually removed the incorrect document. And so now we can continue. And it's going to go and do the same thing it did before. It's going to look for a sheet number. All right, it didn't find one. And so here's another opportunity for us to give it a sheet number. It seems kind of silly in this case because it is only one sheet. But understand that the technology is looking at it as sheets, and it doesn't really know how many sheets are here, and that if there's only one, we don't need a number because we never know what's going to happen on a resubmittal. You may add a sheet on the resubmittal. So it's asking us for a sheet number, but that's simple enough. We can just say this is sheet number 1.
And Tom, if I could interject here,
Sure.
the document that you're working on that you just added to sheet number 2, that's the site plan. We often do get other bits of information, other documents that would be uploaded with a well application. We're asking that each document be its own individual thing. Don't compile your, some supporting data with the site plan. We want to keep them separate. So as we're responding and reviewing to things, we're isolating our comments to the very specific document at hand, a report versus a site plan versus a form, that kind of a thing.
Thank you. All right, so we're back to the same spot we were before where we need to click finish. And it's telling us our review package has been submitted. And again, here we go. We've got our email. And the email is telling us once again, same email that we got before, that our plans and documents have been received. And this is going to then start the review process. So assuming we got it all correct this time around, we should get an email when that next step has initiated, and we'll either get potentially a number of different emails, but the most common are another incomplete email or a accepted email. And so I think Alex is diligently working on that in the background now.
Yes, so taking the role of intake staff again, open up what was submitted. We got the site plan, looks good enough to proceed. I've accepted it. So Tom, you should have gotten the email
There it is.
so.
So we see submittal accepted. That's how you know, oh, I'm good now. Now I just need to wait and see what they have to say.
Correct. So one of the other things that we do in the intake process is we'll assess the applicable fees. So I'm just picking some random fees because this is a test environment. Something to note about our fee processes is that most construction permit applications require one set of fees to be submitted and paid for the plan checking to occur, and that's for staff to perform the reviews that are necessary. Once that's paid, we go into the plan check process. Then later on in the review process, once we verified code compliance, pretty much everything meets what we need to issue the permit, we will assess permit or inspection fees to then get the permit issued. And Tom, I've just done that, and you should be receiving an email communication asking you to pay us some fees.
All right, give it a second. Bear with us for a moment. Sometimes it takes a minute. There it is. All right, so we've got our email that's telling us it's time to pay your fees. And so again, we're going to click the link in the email to do that. That's going to take us right to a page that gives us the option to pay fees. And so you can see here at the top, we see a pay fees button. Just so you know, that button only appears when there's fees due. So if you don't see the button, there's not any fees due. And so, but there are fees due at this moment. And we need to pay those fees in order for this to enter the plan review process. And so we're at a point now to where we're waiting on the applicant. And depending on the permit type, it's not uncommon for this to sit in this state for quite some time. You imagine somebody, maybe they want to proceed with the project, but they haven't quite got their funding secured for the new house that they're going to build yet. So this can sometimes sit for a while. And so it kind of sits there and we're not really paying much attention to it because we're waiting for the payment to come in. So once the payment is processed, we'll see, we click the link to pay fees. It's going to give you a listing of what fees are due, and you can click the pay now. And it's going to present us with the credit card screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to process this off screen really quick, so bear with me. So you guys don't see our fake credit card number that we use. All right, so the fee has been processed and you get a screen here that tells you have paid the fee associated with this record. And so it's thanking you for your payment there. You see that on the screen, and then you also got this email that's telling us your payment has been received. This is your indication now that this has entered the review process. And so from there, Alex is going to then take on that role of conducting some reviews. So I'll turn this again back over to him.
Okay, thank you. So I have received a notification that the permit fees have been paid. What that does on our end is it activates certain review tasks for us to perform the various plan review functions. Many of you that have already been through the well application process are familiar with our well and septic teams and the levels of review that they perform. One of the advantages or improvements with this new system is that it's allowed us to create a digital workspace for other disciplines. They may have to review their aspects of the particular scope of work. So as an example, and we'll see here in a moment, sometimes we get applications that require our planning disciplines to review and provide specific comments. For example, you might have a project on the coast that requires a coastal permit. Other disciplines that we are introducing in the review process will include, as Nathan mentioned, encroachment permitting, because sometimes we have applications that are in the right of way. One other discipline that's being introduced into DPR and in our workflow processes is our natural resources teams. So as many of us are aware, as well permitting has advanced, we have other types of regulations that have gone into effect. Nathan mentioned the drought executive order. That's no longer in effect. It's true, but there are aspects of updates to the well ordinance, public trust review, that kind of thing, that our natural resources teams are actually commenting on and will be providing specific comments as projects get routed to them. So I am completing those review tasks. And Tom, you should be starting to get
I got one
email
so far.
notifications. Fantastic.
While you're doing that, I kind of wanted to demonstrate something really quick.
Sure.
So how do you go and find out what's going on in the absence of an email, right? I haven't gotten an email for a while and I'm wondering what's going on. So if you go back to our permits online, what you're seeing here is a test environment. Our live environment looks a little different. This is what our live environment looks like, but the functionality is the same. I'm going to show you in our test environment because that's where we're working right now. You're going to go here and you say, I want to view my records and check permit status. That's where you go to navigate to this. It's going to ask you to log in. And once you do, and ignore the fact that I've got so much going on here because this is their test environment and I've got a lot in here. We're looking for a well and septic record, right? And we know that we're working on well 240019. So when you click on that, it takes you into the permit record in our permits online. And you can go to the plan room here and you can see what's going on. A good place to start is a summary. And you can kind of see what's going on. And we'll see here in a minute, we're going to take a look at the emails that I got. But in advance of those emails, we can see that, hey, we've gotten a conditionally approved status from environmental review. We've gotten a conditionally approved status from planning review. We've got well and septic, plan check comments sent. You can go here, you can click and see the issues, any conditions, notes, all of those sort of things. So I just wanted to point out that you can do this at any time in between the emails that come your way. But let's go back to what we were looking at before and let's take a look at the emails that we got. So here's the first one I got. It's telling me that the environmental review has conditionally approved this application. And so it's giving me that information in the email. And it's also actually listing a link here where I can get to the comments. One of the things that I want to point out in these emails is that you also see down at the bottom some video tutorial link. And the video tutorial that you see in each of these emails is very specific to the step in the process that you're on right now. And so this is giving us a video tutorial on responding to the issues, which is what this email is asking us to do. If you had clicked on that link in the earlier emails when you were doing the document upload, that video tutorial would have been specific to the document upload process. There's also here a DPR help webpage link that this takes you to a web page with a glossary of different help topics. And when you click on those, you'll see some help information there with a lot of screenshots within our system to help you navigate the process. So there's a lot of help options along the way. But let's take a look here and we're going to click the issues list to see what's going on here. Rather than clicking on it in this first one, because it's going to be a little confusing when they all came in rapid succession like this, because it's listing one issue, but we already know we have multiple issues because we got a couple of other emails. So let's click on the last one. I'm going to go through them one at a time really quick just so you can see the emails came in. So this is the second email that came in, and it's telling us that the planning review also selected conditionally approved and has listed an issue. And then finally, the last email we got was the well and septic has completed its plan review portion and is telling us that corrections are required. And it's showing also a list of issues. So we'll click the list of issues on this email. Since it'll make more sense, when we got in here, it takes us directly to that issues section that I showed you a moment ago. And it's listing all of the issues. It's organizing them by division or discipline, as we call them here. And it's telling you that the status of each of these issues is open. So let's just go through them one at a time. The very first one, it's telling us we've got an issue over here and it's giving us the description. So when you read here, it's telling us, please identify the GPS coordinates for all wells, including in proposed scope of work. And you're seeing that you've got the set of plans here off to the side. And had Alex done a markup on this plan that shows specifically something that we want to draw your attention to, you would have seen that markup on the plan that's associated with this comment. So what's important to note here is that you can't proceed in our process with uploading corrected documents until you've actually answered each of these issues. And so we see that this is open and we've got a field here for applicant's response. And so we need to actually type something in here to acknowledge that we've seen this note and that we're going to do something about it. And so I'm going to.
And Tom, as you're typing
Yep.
that, I want to bring to our audience's attention the two comments that I've provided from Well and Septic on this particular sheet. It's already been addressed, but I'm just using this as an example of the types of plan check comments or issues that you might get from our staff. So if you're looking at the two locations for the well to be destroyed and the well to be installed, they do have the GPS coordinates. And the next comment is going to be this very similar. It's identifying something that's already on the plans, but it's an example of the type of comment or again issue that you might get from our plan check staff.
All right, so we've gone through and we've typed in our response to this issue and we're going to click save. All right, and so now we see we're right back to our list of issues and it shows the status of that issue as being answered. So let's move on to the next one.
As Tom is opening up these issues, you might notice that they take you specifically to the site plan itself. These are sheet specific issues, meaning there's something on the plans that requires a response or attention versus the next two issues that we'll get to. They're not specific to changes to the plans, but there are things that need to occur in order to issue the permit itself. And one way you can distinguish between the two is under the attached to column. The first two issues are attached to number one, sheet one. Whereas the second two issues, you'll notice they're not attached to anything.
Sorry. I got myself all turned around. Sorry, there you go. That's what you were showing, right? The attached column.
Correct. The first two issues are specific to the sheet. Something needs to either be revised or responded to. The plan checkers identified something on the sheets that may be deficient or may be necessary to be addressed. Whereas the last two, they're not attached to anything. So go ahead and open them up, Tom. You'll notice they're not attached to the sheet itself. It's just information from one discipline to the applicant stating what is necessary to occur or to be provided in order to actually get the well permit approved from their perspective.
All right, so we need to do the same thing here. As Alex noted, the screen looks slightly different because it's not also including a view of the sheet, but the functionality is still the same. So we're gonna acknowledge this, save it, and close, and we'll see that that one's answered. So again, I want to make sure it's clear that the system will not allow you to upload a corrected set of documents until all of the issues have been answered. But I'm going to show you what happens if you try. So we're going to go to the upload page. And what you'll notice here is that our original submittal was labeled under what we call a review package, and we call that review plan cycle 1. So that's the first time around. And this is where you're seeing the system manage that version control for us. And so what you see is because we are in a state now where we're asking you to upload a corrected set of plans, we've initialized a review plan cycle number 2. And so that's where you're going to upload your corrected documents. And you'll see it says over here to resume that process of uploading plans. So we're going to click that. And I'm going to show you what happens. So I'm going to go through and again, for the purpose of our example, we're just going to upload the same set of site plans that we had because they were actually correct the first time around. We're going to call it a site plan and we're going to upload and validate. Again, we've seen this before. This is the same process that we saw at the beginning. It's going to go through again. And this is an opportunity that if you got this screen telling you, hey, the page number was missing, when you're uploading your corrected sets, maybe it's a good opportunity to actually make sure the page number is included so you don't get this error this time around. So we're going to correct that error and we see that clears. But now we got another one here. And it's telling us, wait a minute, you haven't answered all the issues. So it's actually kind of stopping us in our tracks here. And it's calling attention to the fact down here that we still have this open issue. So we need to fix that. So we got to go back to the issues because it's preventing us from uploading those plans. We're going to open this issue and we're going to do again like we did before and acknowledge that item. Once we've done that, it should allow us to continue. So we get back to this page and we see the resume again. And we see that the plan that we uploaded before, it's already here. We don't need to add anything new because it's already been here and it's been processed. So we might be able to just continue.
As Tom was going through this process, I want to take a moment just to notice to this group and our well applicants that just like I mentioned earlier about the completion requirements, we are developing better standards for what should be on well site plans. We're trying to address multiple record types, especially those are going to be going live with DPR. And what that's accomplishing for us, it's a better way for our plan check staff to follow some published guidance for what should be on site plans for well applications. So they'll be using that as a plan check tool. It's also a way to publish to the community, the public, here's what we should expect on site plans. So it's a checklist for the people that are preparing the plans, is submitting to verify, yeah, all the relevant and important things that are necessary to construct a well should be shown on the site plans. In addition to that, it's also part of our initiatives, our objectives here in the department to be more transparent and consistent in the way that we're processing our permits. So you may notice like the application statuses, the terminology, that's all being developed in a consistent manner to be used uniformly across multiple record types. One of those other efforts is we want to have clear checklists for, again, our public and our plan check staff so that we, on both sides, we know what the expectations are when we're going to be reviewing something submitted to us like a well application and what should be shown on that particular site plan. Some of these are under development, and as they are completed, they'll be pushed out. So I just want to take that moment to message to this group. There's more improvements coming along the way.
All right, so we see that we submitted and our review package has been submitted. We see that up top here. And again, we got our email that's telling us that we've received the plans. And so now Alex will be working diligently in the background to do the second pass of review.
And
we'll see what happens next.
So I am looking at what's been submitted. And there's a few things that happen in the review, the second submittal. We are verifying that the issues or the plan check comments that we provided have been adequately addressed. Sometimes they could be addressed by changes to the plan. Sometimes they can be addressed by an explanation, a narrative. Maybe not necessarily need to changes to the plans, but one way or the other, they do need to be addressed. And staff need to verify that whatever it is that's been submitted does actually meet our code. So we are reviewing for code compliance, as well as, I guess, mention requirements that are going to be part of the site plans. So we'll be doing that in a consistent manner. So I have reviewed those. I'm accepting them. And I'm moving the application forward in our permitting software. And here we go. Okay, so completed the work as plan check staff would, and I am moving this forward towards permit issuance. And as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, before we issue a permit, we assess the permit or inspection fees. So I'm going to be doing that. And then as soon as I'm done processing that on our end, Tom is going to get an email saying permit is just about ready to be issued upon payment of fees. And you should be getting that shortly.
While we're waiting for that, let me show you another little thing in here. So when you look at the screen, what we're looking at here, if you go to the record detail section, you'll see some information that's available to you here. One of the things that I wanted to draw attention to is the inspection scheduling. When it comes time for inspections, that's all available to you there. You can schedule inspections online through this system. Also, if you click the little down arrow next to the record information item here, if you go to the processing status, it actually shows you a view of our workflow. And you can see check marks next to the things that are done. And you can see what we're waiting for right now is the permit issuance. And so all of the review tasks have been completed. The permit tech has done their part at the end of the process, and we're waiting for permit issuance. That's the item that actually has the hourglass waiting for it. So I just wanted to call your attention to that. So we have our email. And the email is, again, just like the one before, asking us to process payment. And the processing of the payment is the last thing that stands in the way now of us getting an issue permit and our stamped and approved set of documents. So let's go in and do the payment part. And again, we've got our pay fees link. And I'll again drag this over here really quick.
As Tom is working on that, I do notice in the chat about the level 1 conservation. Depending on the scope of work for a well application, you might need to submit a level 1 form or level 2 form, monitoring forms that to that effect. So if you know in advance that your project is subject to that, I'd recommend uploading that sooner than later. In the upload screens that Tom showed at the beginning, said that there's improvements happening to moving forward. Our intent is to identify those conditions that would require those other documents to be uploaded. They're going to be shown under the recommended tabs versus the required tab. The required tab means you must always submit that particular document. But for as an example, let's say you're doing a well destruct, you're going to need a site plan for that, as you would for any other well activity. But you're not necessarily going to need a monitoring form or a level 1 conservation form because you're not extracting water, you're destroying the well. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention. If you already know something's going to be required, it's in our both at best interest, customer and staff, submit that ahead of time. If it's not, then we're going to ask for it later, and it just may delay the permit issuance process.
All right, thanks for that. So we got our email. Let's take a look at it. It's telling us that our payment has been received, and that we are just about good to go. And so the next email we're going to get is an email that's telling us that our permit has been issued, and we actually can then download our set of documents. Sometimes that takes a minute. There's some things that are happening under the hood in the background, and so you shouldn't expect to get that in rapid succession. But when that email comes, and here it is, this is what it looks like. And so it's saying, congratulations, your permit has been completed and the plan has been approved. You may now download your approved document set. And so when we go in, you've got a link to do so here, but let me show you how that works if you just go into the system directly. And so again, we're back on our record here and we go into the plan room. I like to click the summary because it brings up everything and I can see what's going on here, and you'll see this approved documents link off to the end. The approved documents will always be there, so you can go back to this and print as many copies as you'd like, and you'll see we've got our approved set. So let's take a look at that and we can see what that looks like, because this will be a little different than what you're used to as well. So when we open that approved set, it starts with this cover sheet. And this cover sheet was stitched together based on the conditions that we've applied during the review process. And you'll see that that cover sheet is just kind of put page 1 and then the rest of the document that's approved with the stamp follows. So I'm going to let Alex go through and kind of talk about what we're seeing here.
Okay. Could you scroll up a little bit, Tom?
That's all the way scrolled up.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so we know that there are certain requirements that the permittees must undergo when they're implementing or to final the permits. So what we have a greater ability to do with this new software is to communicate to the permittees the things that need to occur during the permit implementation process or prior to permit final. So as an example, we always need a well completion report. So we're just reminding folks that that needs to be submitted to us in order to final the actual well application. We want to remind folks that these permits for construction also require inspections to be requested. So that's what I've identified there in the first couple of items. Just reminders to folks. So when you have the approved set of documents, you have the cover sheet that brings to your attention those things that are necessary, again, to either implement the permit or final the permit. Tom, could you scroll down a little bit
Yeah.
too, so with the last one? So the last one there, the environmental review, it's a well monitoring requirement, right? So sometimes new water wells or replacement wells require monitoring per the newer or ordinance version. So that's just another reminder that, hey, before this thing could be finalized, and if you kind of scroll up or down, or Tom, if you reduce the zoom and you can see like the entirety because it spills over. And this is just a general notification that if your project was subject to certain things like monitoring, this is the opportunity for our staff to put it on the permit as a reminder. And our hope here is that the information is communicated as early in the process as possible, so we don't have any delays later with doing any inspections or filing of the permits. So this is definitely one of the newer features in the permitting software, and it's so far it's found to be very helpful and useful for customers and for staff.
Excellent. All right, so that's kind of the end of our program. This takes us through end to end. If you have any further questions, we're right at the end of our time, but if you want to quickly post any questions in the chat, we'll be sure to answer them. If we can't answer them live, we can certainly include that in follow-up. I will also mention that we have recorded this session, and we will, once it's posted on our website, we'll send a link to that back off to the distribution list that received the invitation to this meeting to begin with. So anybody who wasn't able to make it can click the link to the video and watch it at their leisure. And also, if you know of somebody who wasn't invited that might get some value out of watching this, you can simply forward that link around to that. And so we got one question, takes it a little bit off of the technology side, but I don't know if you want to address this, Alex, here. It's asking what's the estimated turnaround time for boring permits?
Same as any other permit, we do take them in order, regardless of the scope of work, because we do 6, 7, 8 different kinds of activities. I would recommend we go to our Permit Sonoma processing times, which I'm accessing here. It's on our website as well. We have a performance data metrics, and if you bear with me, I can tell you what the current processing times are, and that does vary depending on how many staff we have and the workload volume. So what I'm seeing today on our processing times for first check, we're at 2.7 weeks. And this is for all well permits. And to issue a permit, we're at 6.1 weeks. So I would say that's pretty good.
All right.
I'm going to post that in the chat so others can see or access the link. There we go.
Excellent. Yes, that's the link to our performance data website. That will give you those numbers. And those are refreshed numbers in real time, by the way. All right, so we are at the end of our time. So thank you all for attending. I'm hoping that you found this helpful, and certainly reach out to us with questions. Once this is implemented over the weekend, we'll see this in action beginning next week. And so again, take advantage of the help topics and the videos and all of those things that we've provided. But if you need to get a hold of us, please reach out and we'll do what we can to help you out. So thank you all for attending, and we'll call it a day.